Hey everybody, John here. Got sort of a little bit of a different message that I want to talk to you guys about. It's pretty serious. You can see by my hat. Um, I feel pretty strongly about it. And I think most Americans should be really, really upset with some of the things that are going on in the country. Now, it's not political in the sense this is left or right. This is really about our rights as American citizens. And the reason why it's important is because it protects you whether you're on the left or on the right. And what I want to talk to you about is this post-constitutional world that we've been living in since the 30s. And I know that sounds extreme. And I know many of you are going to say, John's drank the Kool-Aid, but let me prove a point. Most of us grew up, if you're in your 50s, my age, or no, you're the last part of the boomer generation, your civics classes talk to you about the three branches of government: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judiciary. And most of us still think that our Congress people, our House of Representatives, represent the populations of the individual states, and the Senate, which used to be appointed by the state governments, are now directly elected as well, make the laws in our country, and then they're adjudicated by the judiciary. And they're overseen by the executive, who is tasked with the enforcement of those. But it's clear in the Constitution that the lawmaking aspect rests with the legislative branch. Well, they've outsourced that for many, many years now to government agencies. And one of them is the ATF, which is the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm Agency, that is to oversee alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And what that means is Congress has outsourced the lawmaking capability to agencies such as the ATF. They're not technically laws, but they have the weight of law, which means unelected bureaucratic overseers can write rules and regulations that affect all the citizenry without any input from Congress. That's a Cliff's Notes version of that. And one of the new laws that the ATF is proposing is it's Rule 2021 R-05, which is the reclassification of what is a firearm. So why am I even talking about this? So let me ask you a question. How many of you out there in Facebook land are afraid and or worried about ghost guns? You've heard all that in the news. Are you guys afraid of ghost guns? What is a ghost gun? Because apparently they've gone wild and they're committing all kinds of crimes out there. Well, let me show you what a ghost gun is. Are you ready? Brace yourselves. This is very serious. This is a ghost gun. That's right. This hunk of anodized aircraft aluminum, unfinished, is a ghost gun. It's an 80% finished part. Okay, it's a part. But this is what the rule change that the ATF is proposing is going to reclassify as a gun, because they want to reclassify what the definition between what they call the upper and lower receiver of what constitutes a firearm. And this partially milled out piece of metal, this inert thing, is what is all the hubbub is about. For these scary black guns that everybody calls assault rifles or ARs. Just for a little bit of history, AR is from the Armalite company that first produced and designed these firearms. And they became so popular that everybody just refers to this design as an AR or an AR style. It's no different than this. Depending on where you grew up or what part of the country you're from, you call this Kleenex. Well, Kleenex is a brand. Actually, accurately, this is a facial tissue, or as my theater professor at Ball State would say, tissue. But we call it a Kleenex. It's like other people calling soda pop Coke, because Coke was everywhere. They would just say, hey, give me a Coke. And they mean, give me a soft drink. So AR doesn't mean assault rifle. It's from the Armalite company, but it does go to a design for rifles. And this has to be finished out with either a jig and a drill press and some other tools to finish the manufacturing process, just to get it to assemble with all these other parts into something. When you put a trigger mechanism and everything else, and you pull the trigger and it goes boom. So all of that takes time, effort, money, and know-how. This is not what criminals are buying. Criminals are not buying unfinished parts to put together to commit their crimes. Yet this is what they're saying is the scourge of all the murders that are going out there. I'm hesitant to say, call it a lie, because to me, the definition of lie is you know what the truth is and you say something different. I like the word mendacious, but in this case, that is a lie. The federal government knows exactly that these are not problematic. This is not the preferred pathway for criminals to get guns to commit crimes with, or gun crimes. So this proposed rule change will do zero in eliminating gun crime, but it will limit or infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens to exercise their Second Amendment rights. We've had a history since the beginning of the country of home manufacture of all kinds of things that are unregulated. And getting something like this actually produces better firearms, because you get really creative people that start tinkering and noodling, and they come up with a better mousetrap that is safer, less likely to go off accidentally, less likely to unintentionally harm somebody. Now, here's another little fact for the gun grabbers out there. It's almost a 3 to 5 to 1 disparity of defensive use of a firearm to stop crime versus an offensive. In other words, somebody taking a weapon and going and shooting up places. And I know we've been hearing about these lately in the news. It's on the rise. Historically, gun violence in the general population has been going down for years and years and years. It's only in the city centers. And the more we say defund the police, the higher the violence goes up. That's why we want to defund gun control, because gun control laws historically disenfranchise and have been targeted against minority communities. Oh, just face it, gun control laws are racist laws. They've historically been used against Black communities to take away their Second Amendment rights, because, hey, nobody likes an uppity Black person. If you really believe that Black lives matter, then gun control is something you should be against, because it takes away fundamentally the rights of minorities and Black folk to defend themselves in communities where the police are being defunded or don't have a great response time, because you are your first responder. You're the first line of defense. And this is not a threat. So anyway, that's my soapbox for now. What I'm really encouraging are my brothers and sisters out here in Southern California to, and I was astonished to hear this. There's 10 million firearm owners here just in California alone. That's crazy. And many of them have been asleep, like myself, about what actually goes on behind the scenes to take away, whittle away, chip away at your Second Amendment rights. But this ATF rule affects everybody across the country. And so really what I'm encouraging you to do is, because, I gave you that little primer on how legislation is not being done. It's done by these bureaucracies. The saving grace is they have to have a mandatory commenting period. It's 90 days. Let me share my screen quickly with you guys and show you this. So this is the ATF website, and this is how to submit a comment on proposed rule 2021R-05. Now, you have to be respectful. You have to be professional. So no profanity. These are civil service people. These are people tasked with doing a job to read these comments. So you want to be persuasive. The least persuasive is start dropping F-bombs and just generally being a jerk to these people, because there's lots of good people, because they're made up of us citizens who happen to be working for government. So we have to be able to influence them. And if just all the California gun owners alone wrote a comment about this noxious proposal, it can have an impact. And the purpose of this is the government says they have a real desire to hear from the public. So this is our opportunity to do that. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So if you want to know how to do that, there's a great YouTuber. He goes by Fuddbuster or Fuddbusters, Fuddbusters, after Elmer Fudd. He's an attorney in Florida, and he's got a YouTube on this proposed law of how to submit a comment and why that's important, because the federal government needs to hear from the citizenry as it proposes to reclassify the definition of what a firearm is. It matters. If you don't own firearms, if you think guns are a problem, this still matters, because you are still protected by the Second Amendment, whether you exercise those rights or not. That is your fundamental right for self-defense. And there are people in the government that are looking to take that away from you. Now, you may not care about that right, but the fact that you don't like that right doesn't give you the right to take it away from somebody else. These are natural rights. Shall not be infringed is there for a reason. So I encourage you guys to make a comment on the atf.org website. If you live in Southern California and you are not a member of the CRPA, the California Rifle and Pistol Association, that membership is, I think it's like $35 for the year. So what I do is join, pay for your membership, and then make an extra $35 donation. And then tell your friends about it, because this is an organization who spends their money defending your Second Amendment rights in lawsuits against state and local and federal governments. They recently joined amicus briefs or friends of the court briefs from across the country to defend your right to defend yourself. And if you don't look out for your own rights, you don't exercise your rights, they will be taken from you little by little, chipped away. This isn't an over-exaggeration. Just in California alone, they've got their gun registry. So if they've got a new proposed rule for microstamping on guns and mandating all law enforcement have to trade in their existing firearms and buy these new guns that aren't on the market yet, by the way, for safety. Stamping serialized parts does not make you more safe. After the initial purchase and sale of a gun, it's in the wind. The only thing this does is create a barrier for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves or tinker in their backyard for something that they enjoy doing, that the federal government has no business putting their nose in. The only thing that this empowers are criminals. So I encourage you to exercise your rights. Please contact the ATF respectfully, make a comment, tell them why this is important to you, what the proposal could have an impact on you. Because the fact of the matter is, boys and girls, if you have an unserialized part and they mandate this with no grandfather clause, they potentially turn law-abiding citizens into criminals or felons just at the stroke of the pen. And that's really what they want you to do. They want you to be afraid. So do not be afraid. Exercise your rights. So they're critical to our freedoms and our way of life. Thanks, everybody, and be safe.